It's been about 4 years since I've created a new sketchbook, and it's been about 3 years kind of since I've made a sketchbook video on this channel. It's been quite a while. Wow. But because of that, I've had a lot of pre-gessoed painting canvas paper in my supply box that's just been sitting there. So I just decided, why not make a completely new sketchbook just dedicated for painting? A sketchbook that, in the grand scheme of things, I probably won't finish. But that's not the problem for today. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another sketchbook video that probably won't get finished because, as per usual, I always start something completely new without finishing the other sketchbook that I started. But anyway, welcome to another video that will probably involve me doing something drastically crazy, but not as drastically crazy as you may think. Today, we are going to make a new and fully furnished sketchbook that is specifically dedicated to acrylic painting. But not just acrylic painting, but painting in general. Maybe even a little bit of gouache, but I'm not sure. Maybe some oil painting if I decide to actually buy some more, because I ran out of that like 400,000 years ago. But anyway, I've been painting for over 3 years now consistently. And well, 3.5, honestly. I always find myself gravitating towards gouache paint. For some reason, it's just the medium that I like myself to be in the most. Watercolor was cool at a time, and oils are, they ruin my patience. That's really what they do. But acrylic, I think that it is the lowest medium for painting when it comes to the main four, which are gouache, oil, acrylic, and watercolor. Not in that order, but kind of in that order. And I've always, like I said, gravitated towards gouache paint, and I see why. But again, anytime I need to do a painting commission, I always end up using acrylic. So I have to make sure that I know how to use the medium and know what I'm doing, basically. And despite my kind of, not really hatred, but loathing of the medium, there's still always a use for it. Like today. With all that being said, we're going to go over all the supplies that you're going to need to actually make the sketchbook alongside me, or if you just want to watch, feel free to stay tuned, because why not? This is going to be fun. If you're going to join me on the journey, all you're going to need is some tape. I got gaff tape as well as some duct tape. You'll see why. Some cardboard, courtesy of Amazon, because absolutely Amazon, why not? Some string or some cable to bind the sketchbook itself. Some needle and thread, as well as some cloth. I got this cloth from my craft supply drawer because I have one of those, and I'm going to use it to actually make the sketchbook cover look a little bit more fancy, and it's going to have a nice feel to it, especially once I bind everything together. You need a ruler, a pen, as well as a pair of scissors. Not in that order, but kind of in that order. I have all of them because why not? And obviously you're going to need some canvas for you to actually use and cut up so that you can, make the inside of the sketchbook. And an extra piece that I always try to use is some watercolor cardstock. This is just a sheet of paper that I took straight out of my watercolor sketchbook. It's 140 pounds, and that just means that it's super thick and it holds water very well, and it can hold just about any paint that you put on it as long as it's not too heavy. So with the supply list listed, we're gonna just go ahead and jump right into it. I'm gonna do a time lapse of this entire thing because it's probably gonna take me definitely about 4 hours to make this. Probably shouldn't take you that long, but I like to be methodical in my approach to a lot of things. We'll see when it actually gets finished. But other than that, cue time lapse. As we got into making the first part of the entire sketchbook, which was the covers, I ended up using the suede fabric to actually assemble most of what you see to be the cover. I ended up realizing that the covers that I made out of the cardboard were too slim, and they weren't long enough to actually cover the entire sketchbook pages. But as I ended up finishing the stitching for the first cover, it came out a little bit better than I thought it was going to be. There's enough droopy fabric off of the edge of the cover to keep the sketchbook pages covered. I realized that I could have just added a little bit more cardboard into the side of the covers, but I kept that in mind once I actually sewed them all up. It was a lot easier for me to just leave it like that and then come back to it later. And then once I actually got to cutting all the paper, I really got frustrated with this because my knives were not cutting the way that I needed to, so I ended up trying to avoid cutting through my entire desk. And I just used some sheet metal to facilitate me not cutting a hole through the wood face of my desk. I cut up both of the canvases and I ended up getting about 16 sheets as well as some extra paper, and I will talk about those a little later in the video. But I ended up liking the fact that I left a little bit extra out. I don't know why, but a little bit extra paper was always fun to use. As we finish up the second cover, I had to use a lot of tape to actually keep this fabric from just flopping all over the place, which was the most frustrating part of this, but it was worth it because I didn't have to waste too much thread on it. And I definitely poked my fingers with that sewing needle too many times at this point, and my finger actually still hurts as I'm talking. But overall, it was actually worth it. Mostly kind of. I just didn't realize how hard sewing is until this exact moment, even though I had been sewing for 10 years. But you know, whatever, we don't talk about that part. The part that we do talk about, however, is how we ended up binding the entirety of the pages for this sketchbook. The pages ended up being bound together with some gaffer tape because I didn't want to cut or use glue on the pages, and then as I would have to cut them out or take them out when I'm done with them, I didn't want to have to risk cutting the paper in any way or trying to get it out of the sketchbook. So that's where the black tape came from. And now comes the slightly more harder part of the entire thing, which was just binding the sketchbook itself. It wasn't as hard as you think it would be, but it was a lot more frustrating to get 3 separate holes or gashes inside of this tape than I thought it would be. I used up most of the roll for this entire thing, but you know, it was kind of worth it. But as I ended up examining the sketchbook and checking out how it actually looked, it was very much satisfactory. I was very satisfied with how it ended up working and how it came to be. So this assembly process was a solid 7 out of 10, kind of. With 3.5 hours down and out, yeah, we're kind of done. This is more or less where we're at. Well, actually, I gotta finish this part because I specifically left this last one to do while I was recording this. So once we bind the last of the actual sketchbook, we actually are done. And actually done, you know? I said actually a couple of times, so that means we're actually done, right? The shoelaces did exactly what they need to do, and luckily they are malleable enough to be able to slide into the spine here and be covered up. That's kind of what I wanted to do anyway, but honestly, I like to have the knots bound up right here on the front. I just have to make them look a little bit more knotty. I might end up tightening this a little later once I'm done, but I'm not too sure. Overall, I like it. And I even have an extra place for the extra acrylic paper that I have, canvas that I ended up having to cut off. These are going to be fun to use when I actually end up using them. I'm not sure what I'm going to use them for. I might use them as palettes, or if the paint is too thick on them, I might have to just keep them and toss them later. Turns out I didn't actually need the watercolor cardstock because I have these. These are going to work as scratch paper as well as extra cardstock. So if I want to do a little bit of a landscape sketch on this and then translate it into one of the other pages, I'll actually be able to do that. And some of the tape is actually wearing off a little bit too, so that's helping me out a lot more. I had the tape attach everything to the top a little bit more. I have a little bit more room at the bottom to detach the tape, so I don't have to worry about anything falling out. But luckily, the way I have it set up here, the canvas is tough enough to where it won't mess that up. And I have enough margin here to be able to frame it if I want to, or just hang it on that side. Overall, I think the sketchbook here was a success. I think. I'm not 100% certain at this point. But the one last thing that we need to do in order to actually make sure that this is a good sketchbook is christen it. How are we going to do that? Well, if you saw the thumbnail for this video, if I decided to do something right, we're going to paint something very immaculate, and we might even do 2 pages. My count was 16 pages for these, and that means I also have about 16 or so pieces of extra cardstock. In the future, I'm probably going to mainly use this sketchbook as a sketchbook for larger paintings. So I'll end up doing acrylic sketches and other paint sketches inside of this sketchbook and translating all of that to a bigger canvas. I kind of did that wow, when I made my other sketchbook in the previous video that I did. Wow, now that I think about it, this all comes together. But anyway, I did all of that in my previous sketchbook. It actually worked a lot better for me to do that because I had to plan out a large painting that I posted a while ago on this channel. But other than that, I'm rambling now, so let's actually get to christening the sketchbook. I didn't give much thought into what I wanted to draw the first time, or at least for the first thing in this sketchbook. So I basically just asked my group chat, hey guys, what do you want to see in this first sketchbook? Somebody said a cowboy, so I just ended up drawing a cowboy, or at least having the idea of an abstract little landscape for a cowboy. The sketch came together nicely, but overall the painting didn't come out like I wanted to. But with this sketchbook having the sole purpose of being a sketch slash paint sketchbook, I wasn't too hard on myself with what the final result ended up being. I didn't like it as much as I thought I was going to, but also I don't think I added enough color in the entire thing overall. I wanted to have some blue as well as some white, but I think I overdid it with the white, but I'm not too sure. I ended up liking like what it wanted to be, but I think I should have added a little bit more, what do I want to call it? A little bit more detail to the entire thing. But for me doing an abstract piece, I think this ended up being a little bit better than it should have been. But overall, I liked how it came out. Not too satisfied with it, but with it being a paint sketch, I think it served the purpose that it was supposed to for this sketchbook. I'll give it a solid 8.1. With all that being said and done, I hope you all had a nice and enjoyable experience making your own sketchbook. Or if you didn't, hope you enjoyed me doing my own, because this was fun, but like I said, it was very frustrating to get certain parts of this thing done. Mainly the binding of the spine, because that part was hard. I had to cut through everything, but overall, it was pretty good. And like I said in the voiceover, this is going to get a lot of use towards the end of, towards the end of January of next year, if everything goes right. But with all that being said, thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed the video, really, please give it a like, comment down below, tell me what you thought about the sketchbook, or if you made your own sketchbook while you were doing all this. Let me know. Feel free to subscribe as well, and also share this video with some other people, because why not? And if my timing is right, there should be some videos on this, no wait, is it this side? Whichever side of my face, there we go. I'm gonna move my face and we'll see which videos pop up. So I'm going to have the bottom video, I'm gonna have that as the sketchbook that I did the first time. Well, actually, it was technically my third sketchbook that I ever made, but it was the first one that I actually recorded. So anyway, watch that one. Don't cringe, please. But also, watch the other video. I think it's probably gonna be a speed paint or something. With all that being said, I will catch you all later. Go click the videos. Give me that watch time. Or something like that. I don't know what to say anymore.